The crimson moons of Valdris hung like blood drops against the star-scattered void, as Captain Marcus Stone stepped through the smoldering ruins of what had once been the most magnificent palace in the Outer Rim. His tactical boots crunched over crystalline debris that had been priceless art just hours before, each step echoing in the unnatural silence that followed orbital bombardment. "Hell of a thing," he muttered, adjusting the power cell on his Mark 9 pulse rifle. The weapon's blue energy core hummed against his shoulder, a familiar comfort in this wasteland of destruction. His environmental suit detected trace radiation and toxic particulates in the air, remnants of the Hegemony's pacification protocol. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The Terran Expeditionary Force had arrived too late to prevent the massacre, but just in time to witness its aftermath. The proud Valdorian Empire, humanity's most cultured ally in the fight against the Hegemony, had fallen in a single devastating night. Their crystalline cities lay in ruins, their floating gardens burned to ash, their people. Marcus forced himself to focus on the mission. Search and rescue, find survivors, get them to the extraction point. Simple objectives in a situation that was anything but simple. His tactical display flickered with ghost signals, interference from the exotic energies released when the Valdorians' quantum cores had been deliberately overloaded. The enemy had been thorough, ensuring that even their advanced technology couldn't be salvaged. It was a level of spite that made Marcus's jaw clench. Through the settling dust ahead, his enhanced optics caught movement. Marcus dropped into a combat crouch, finger hovering over his weapon's trigger as he advanced through what appeared to be the palace's inner sanctum. Broken columns of living crystal lay scattered like fallen giants, their inner light dimmed forever. Then he saw her. At first, Marcus thought she was dead. The Valdorian woman lay crumpled against a shattered throne, her body motionless beneath debris. But as he drew closer, his breath caught. Even injured and covered in dust, she was the most magnificent being he'd ever seen. Her skin held the characteristic translucent quality of Valdorian nobility, with veins of silver light running beneath the surface like captured starlight. Her hair, long and flowing, shifted between deep purple and midnight blue depending on the angle of light. She wore what had once been ceremonial armor, form-fitting plates of organic metal that seemed grown rather than forged. But it was her face that stopped Marcus cold. High cheekbones, elegant features, and even unconscious, she carried herself with unmistakable regality. This wasn't just any survivor. This was royalty. Marcus approached cautiously, his medical scanner already active. The readings made him wince. Massive internal trauma, severe spinal damage, and radiation poisoning from proximity to an overloaded quantum core. By human standards, she should have been dead already. By Valdorian standards, her eyes fluttered open as he knelt beside her. They were the color of nebulae, swirling patterns of violet and gold that seemed to hold the depth of space itself. When those impossible eyes focused on him, Marcus felt something shift in his chest. "Human," she whispered, her voice carrying the musical quality all Valdorians possessed, though now tinged with pain. You came." "Yes, ma'am," Marcus replied, setting his rifle aside and pulling out his emergency medical kit. "Captain Marcus Stone, Terran Expeditionary Force. We're here to help." A bitter laugh escaped her lips, followed by a grimace of pain. "Help? Look around you, human. There is nothing left to help." Her gaze moved to the destruction surrounding them. "My people, my world, my empire. All of it gone." Marcus followed her gaze, taking in the magnitude of the devastation. The palace that had once housed millions now stood as a tomb. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "We tried to get here sooner." "I know." Her voice was softer now, resigned. "The quantum resonance chambers. I felt your ships dropping out of hyperspace. Too late for most, but perhaps not too late for some. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story." "That's right," Marcus said, his medical scanner painting a grim picture. "We're evacuating survivors to—" "No!" The word came out sharp, final. Her nebula eyes fixed on his with startling intensity. "I am not a survivor, human. I am the last. The final echo of something that will never be again." "What's your name?" Marcus asked, beginning to assess her injuries more carefully. Was Crown Princess Lirelei Valdris, heir to the eternal throne, guardian of the crystal harmonies, and—" her voice cracked, "the last of my bloodline." Marcus felt his heart skip. He was looking at the rightful ruler of an entire star system, the hereditary leader of 17 worlds, lying broken in the ruins of her civilization. "Your Highness, please," she interrupted. And for the first time, her regal composure cracked entirely. Tears of liquid silver began flowing down her cheeks. "Just kill me, human. End this. I cannot bear to be the last witness to such failure." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "I'm not going to kill you." "Look at me." Lyralei's voice rose, though the effort clearly caused her agony. "I cannot move my legs, cannot feel anything below my waist. My quantum core is damaged beyond repair. I will never again touch the crystal harmonies, never again hear the songs of my people. What am I but a broken shell of what was?" Marcus studied her for a long moment, then carefully began removing debris from around her body. "You're alive," he said simply. "That's enough." "Alive to what end?" Bitterness colored her musical voice. "To sit in some human facility, a curiosity for your scientists to study? To be the last pitiful remnant of a once great civilization? To rebuild," Marcus said, his hands gentle as he checked for additional injuries. "To ensure your people's legacy survives. To be living proof that the hegemony didn't win completely." Lirelei stared at him, her nebula eyes searching his face. "You don't understand, human. Valdorian biology. When our quantum cores are damaged like this, we fade. Slowly, painfully. I have perhaps days before my cellular structure begins to collapse." Marcus paused, his medical scanner confirming her words. The quantum energy that powered Valdorian physiology was indeed failing. But there was something else in the readings, something that made him frown. "Your core isn't just damaged," he said slowly. "It's trying to stabilize on something, some external quantum signature." He looked up at her. "What were you doing when the attack hit?" For the first time, something other than despair flickered in her eyes. "I was in the resonance chamber, attempting to commune with the crystal harmonies, to find some way to repel the invasion. The feedback when the cores overloaded." She trailed off. Marcus's scanner beeped insistently. His own equipment was detecting quantum fluctuations, impossibly synchronized with Lyralei's failing core. "Princess," he said carefully, "I think your core is trying to bond with my suit's power source." "Impossible," she breathed. "Human technology and Valdorian quantum matrices are completely incompatible. The resonance frequencies alone would what?" Marcus asked as his suit's systems began humming in harmony with her fading energy signature. Lyralei's eyes widened as she felt it too, a strange resonance building between them. "This is unprecedented. No human has ever achieved quantum compatibility with our technology. It should be killing you." Instead, Marcus felt more alive than ever. Energy coursed through him, and through their growing connection, he could sense her wonder and disbelief. "Maybe compatibility isn't about technology," he suggested. "Maybe it's about something else." "The resonance protocols," Lirelei whispered, understanding dawning in her expression. "They're not just technological interfaces. They respond to intent, to emotional resonance, to—" She stared at him with new recognition. "Why did you come for me, human? Your mission was search and rescue, but you could have marked me as terminal and moved on." Marcus met her gaze steadily. "Because leaving you here would have been wrong. Because you deserve better than dying alone in the ruins of your world. Because—" He paused, surprised by his own honesty. "Because the moment I saw you, something in me knew I couldn't walk away." The quantum resonance between them intensified, and Lirelei gasped as she felt sensation returning to her lower body. "Impossible!" she breathed, but her legs were moving, responding to her commands for the first time since the attack. Your Highness, Marcus said, helping her sit up. I think we're in uncharted territory here. Lyra Lee tested her restored mobility, wonder replacing despair in her expression. The quantum resonance, it's not just stabilizing my core. It's enhancing it. I can feel the crystal harmonies again, faint but present. Through you, somehow. Marcus's tactical display suddenly lit up with proximity alarms. We've got company, he announced, helping Lyra to her feet. Hegemony cleanup crews, probably. Coming to verify there are no survivors. Then we must go, Lyra Lee said, but her voice carried new strength. But human. Marcus, what you've done here, the quantum bond we've formed, it changes everything. How so? Marcus asked, gathering, his equipment as enemy signatures multiplied on his display. Lyra looked at him with an expression that mixed gratitude, wonder, and something deeper. In Valdorian culture, a quantum bond can only form between compatible souls. It's rarer than starfall, more precious than crystal harmonies. And once formed, she paused, silver tears still marking her cheeks, but now from joy rather than despair. It can never be broken. Marcus felt the truth of her words resonating through their connection. Whatever had happened between them, it was permanent, profound, life-altering. So what does that make us? A ghost of a smile crossed her lips, the first he'd seen from her. Bonded, Captain Stone. In the deepest sense my people understand. Her voice grew stronger, more regal. You have saved not just my life, but my very essence. By Valdorian law and custom, that makes you— Makes me what? Marcus asked, though something in their quantum connection was already whispering the answer. My chosen consort, Lyra said, her nebula eyes blazing with new purpose. And if I am the last of the royal bloodline, that makes you— The implications hit Marcus like a supernova. Your king. If you'll have me, she said simply. If you'll help me rebuild what was lost, forge something new from the ashes of the old. The Valdorian Empire is dead, but perhaps something greater can rise in its place. Marcus looked at this magnificent woman, this princess, this survivor, this queen, and felt their quantum bond pulse with shared possibility. The approaching enemy's signatures seemed less important suddenly. What mattered was the future they could build together. Your Majesty, he said, offering her a formal bow despite their circumstances. It would be my honor. Lyra's smile was radiant, transforming her face from beautiful to divine. Then let us leave this tomb, my king, and begin writing a new chapter in the stars. As they moved toward the palace exit, Marcus supporting Lyra while their quantum bond grew stronger. With each step, explosions began rocking the structure around them. The Hegemony had arrived in force. The extraction point is 2 kilometers through enemy territory, Marcus reported, his tactical display showing a maze of hostile contacts between them and safety. Then we fight our way through, Lyra replied, and Marcus felt power building around her as she accessed abilities he hadn't known existed. Together. Together, he agreed, and as they stepped into the firelit ruins of the capital city, Marcus realized that finding Lyra hadn't just been a rescue mission. It had been the beginning of a revolution. The first Hegemony patrol rounded the corner just as Marcus and Lyra reached the palace's outer courtyard. 3 hulking warriors in powered armor, their weapons already charging with the distinctive whine of disruptor technology. Through their quantum bond, Marcus felt Lyra's immediate tactical assessment. These weren't standard troops. Executioners, she whispered, her voice tight with old fear. They specialize in hunting royal bloodlines. Marcus raised his pulse rifle, but before he could fire, Lyra stepped forward. Power rippled around her like heat waves, and the very air began to sing with harmonic frequencies that made his teeth ache. The quantum energy coursing between them amplified her abilities beyond anything she'd possessed before the bonding. Impossible. The lead executioner growled in the guttural Hegemony tongue. The quantum resonance chambers were destroyed. You should be powerless. Lyra's response came not in words, but in pure harmonic force. The sound that emerged from her throat was music-made weapon, crystalline notes that shattered the executioners' armor and sent them crashing to the ground. Through their bond, Marcus felt the strain it cost her, but also her fierce joy at reclaiming her abilities. That was incredible, he breathed, but his tactical display was already showing more contacts, converging on their position, though we've just announced our presence to every hostile within 10 kilometers. Good, Lyrelay said, her nebula eyes blazing with newfound confidence. Let them come. Let them see what happens when they think they've extinguished the light of Valdris. Marcus felt her determination through their connection, but also something else. A deep, abiding rage that had been building since she'd awakened to find her world in ruins. The gentle princess was gone, replaced by something far more dangerous. A queen with nothing left to lose, and the power to make her enemies pay. Your Majesty, he said carefully, I understand the desire for vengeance, but our priority should be reaching the extraction point. My ship can get us off-world, and then we can plan. Plan what? Lyrelay turned to face him, and Marcus saw the conflict raging behind her eyes. To hide? To run while the Hegemony consolidates their victory? To let my people sacrifice mean nothing? Through their quantum bond, Marcus felt the weight of her decision forming. She wasn't just talking about escape anymore. She was talking about war. The crystal harmonies, she continued, her voice taking on an otherworldly resonance. They're not just songs, Marcus. They're the fundamental frequency of reality itself in this region of space. The Valdorian Empire was built on our ability to manipulate quantum states through harmonic resonance. Marcus's enhanced combat suit began detecting massive energy fluctuations throughout the ruined city. What are you saying? I'm saying that the Hegemony thought they destroyed our power source when they overloaded the quantum cores. But they only destroyed the amplifiers. Lyrelay's smile was sharp as a blade. The true source was never technology. It was us. And, now, bonded with you, I can feel it awakening again. The ground beneath their feet began to vibrate in harmony with Lyrelay's voice. Around them, the crystalline debris of the palace started to resonate, emitting faint musical tones that grew stronger by the moment. Marcus watched in amazement as fragments of broken crystal began to lift into the air, slowly orbiting around. Lyrelay like satellites around a star. The quantum bond we share, she explained, her eyes never leaving his. It's not just healing me, it's amplifying abilities I never knew I possessed. Through you, I can touch harmonies that were lost to my people for generations. Marcus felt the truth of it through their connection. His human neural patterns, so different from Valdorian quantum matrices, were creating interference patterns that unlocked new possibilities. They weren't just bonded, they were evolving into something neither species had ever produced. So what's the plan? He asked, checking his rifle's charge as more enemy contacts appeared on his display. We don't just escape, Lyrelay said, and Marcus felt her royal authority settling around her like a mantle. We take back my capital. We show the Hegemony that reports of Valdris's death have been greatly exaggerated. Before Marcus could respond, the courtyard erupted with enemy fire. A full squad of Hegemony shock troops had surrounded them, their weapons painting the air with deadly energy beams. Marcus dove behind a fallen column, pulling Lyrelay with him as superheated plasma scorched the air where they'd been standing. 12 hostiles, he reported, his tactical display painting targeting solutions. Standard assault formation. They're trying to pin us down for reinforcements. Then we don't give them the chance, Lyrelay replied. She placed her hands on the crystal debris around them, and Marcus felt power surge through their bond like nothing he'd ever experienced. The floating crystal shards suddenly blazed with inner light, and Lyrelay's voice rose in a complex harmonic sequence that seemed to resonate with the very foundations of reality. The crystals began to move with purpose, each one following precise mathematical patterns that Marcus's enhanced combat computer couldn't track. The first Hegemony soldier screamed as a crystal shard phased through his armor like it wasn't there, disrupting his nervous system with harmonic frequencies. 3 more fell before the rest realized they were facing something far beyond conventional weapons. Retreat! The squad leader bellowed. Call in orbital support! We're dealing with a Class 9 quantum anomaly, but Lyrelay wasn't finished. The song that poured from her throat grew more complex, and Marcus felt his own energy being drawn into the pattern. Their quantum bond pulsed with shared power, and suddenly he could see what she was seeing. The underlying harmonic structure of matter itself. The Hegemony soldiers' weapons began to malfunction as Lorali's song disrupted their molecular cohesion. Armor plating cracked along crystalline stress lines. Energy cells overloaded in specific harmonic sequences. Within moments, the elite shock troops were fleeing in terror from an enemy they couldn't understand, much less fight. Magnificent, Marcus breathed, awed by what they'd accomplished together. It's just the beginning, Lorelei replied, but he could feel the strain through their bond. Using powers at this level was exhausting, even with their quantum connection amplifying her abilities. The deeper harmonies, they require time to master, and we'll need them if we're going to face what's coming. Marcus's tactical display confirmed her concern. Orbital surveillance was showing massive Hegemony fleet movements. They weren't just dealing with cleanup crews anymore. Word had gotten out that something unusual was happening on Valdris, and the enemy was responding with overwhelming force. 48 hours, Marcus calculated, processing the fleet deployment patterns. Maybe 60 before they have enough firepower in-system to glass the entire planet. Then we have 48 hours to give them a reason to hesitate, Lorelei said, her regal bearing returning as she contemplated the challenge ahead. Marcus, what do you know about the Hegemony's command structure? Hierarchical, brutally efficient, and paranoid about anything they don't understand, Marcus replied. Why? Lorelai's smile was sharp enough to cut starlight. Because they're about to encounter something they very definitely don't understand. Through our bond, I can feel the quantum resonance patterns of every living Valdorian in this system. They're scattered, hiding, but they're alive. Marcus felt his heart skip as the implications hit him. How many? Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. The Hegemony was thorough, but not perfect. They focused on the cities, the obvious targets. They didn't account for the mining colonies, the research stations, the agricultural worlds. Her eyes blazed with new purpose. My people aren't extinct, Marcus. They're just waiting for someone to remind them what they're capable of. Through their quantum bond, Marcus felt Lorelei reaching out with her consciousness, touching the scattered survivors across the system. Each contact sent ripples of energy through their connection, and he realized she was doing more than just locating them, she was awakening them. The quantum resonance, she explained, her voice taking on the formal cadence of royal decree. It's not just between us anymore. Every Valdorian who feels my call will be able to tap into the power we've unlocked. Not at our level. The bond between us is unique, but enough to make them formidable again. Marcus watched his tactical display with growing amazement as dormant energy signatures began flaring to life across the planet. Hidden installations thought destroyed were coming online. Scattered survivors were revealing themselves as they felt their quantum cores stabilizing and strengthening. You're not just starting a rebellion, he realized. You're resurrecting an empire. Our empire, Lorelei corrected. And through their bond, Marcus felt the full weight of what she was offering. Him. Not just partnership, but true shared rule over a civilization that spanned 17 worlds. If you're willing to stand with me in what's coming. Marcus looked at this incredible woman. This queen who had risen from despair to reclaim her birthright, and felt their quantum bond pulse with shared destiny. The human military part of him calculated odds and found them overwhelmingly against success. The man who had found her broken in the ruins and felt his soul recognize its match didn't care about odds. Until the last star burns cold, he said, formally, and felt her joy through their connection like a supernova. Then let's give the Hegemony something to remember us by, Lorelei declared. She raised her voice in a new harmonic sequence, one that resonated not just through the local area, but across the entire quantum field surrounding Valdris. Throughout the system, hidden Valdorians felt their princess calling. In mining tunnels, deep beneath the planet's surface, quantum cores that had been dark for days suddenly blazed with renewed life. On orbital stations thought destroyed, emergency systems activated as their Valdorian operators rediscovered abilities they'd thought lost forever. But it was on the planet's surface that the most dramatic changes occurred. Ancient crystal formations that had been dormant for millennia began to sing with awakened power. The very mountains resonated with harmonic frequencies that could be felt from orbit. Marcus's tactical display showed the Hegemony forces confusion as their sensors registered. Energy readings that shouldn't have been possible. Reports flooded in of equipment malfunctions, communication breakdowns, and inexplicable atmospheric disturbances. "They're scared," Marcus observed, watching enemy formation patterns break down as commanders struggled to understand what they were facing. "They should be," Lirali replied, her voice carrying harmonics that made reality itself seem to bend around her words. "They came here to extinguish a dying ember. Instead, they've awakened a star." As if summoned by her words, the first of the hidden Valdorians began to emerge from their shelters. Marcus watched through his enhanced optics as figures in crystalline armor stepped out of concealed entrances throughout the ruined city. Each one moved with the fluid grace of their species, but now they carried something more. The shared resonance of their reawakened queen. "My people," Lirale whispered, tears of liquid silver streaming down her face as she saw her subjects alive and responding to her call. "My beautiful, stubborn, impossible people." Through their quantum bond, Marcus felt her overwhelming joy and relief. She had thought herself the last, had begged him to end her life rather than face that loneliness. Now she stood as the focal point for thousands of survivors who had never stopped believing in their empire's eventual return. "Your Majesty," came a voice from behind them. Marcus spun, weapon ready, but Lirali's gentle touch on his arm stayed his hand. A Valdorian in the elaborate armor of a royal guard approached, his movements careful and respectful. His quantum core blazed with renewed strength, and Marcus could see the awe in his crystalline features as he gazed upon his queen. "Commander Therion," Lirali said warmly, recognition flooding through their bond. "I had feared you lost with the others." "Never, Your Majesty," Therion replied, dropping to one knee. "We maintained the hidden protocols, as your father taught us. When we felt your resonance awakening." He paused, his eyes moving to Marcus with curious respect. "We knew our queen had returned to us. And brought us something more," Lirali said, her hand finding Marcus's. "Commander Therion, allow me to present my bonded consort, King Marcus of the House Stone." The formal introduction sent ripples of energy through the quantum field as Lirali's royal authority acknowledged Marcus's new status. Therion's eyes widened as he felt the unprecedented nature of their bond. Then he bowed deeply to both of them. "Your Majesties," he said simply. "What are your orders?" Marcus studied the holographic display that Commander Therion had conjured from crystalline fragments scattered throughout the ruined throne room. The three-dimensional map showed the Hegemony fleet positions in real time, their formations shifting, like predators circling wounded prey. Through his quantum bond with Lirali, he felt her tactical mind analyzing patterns that his human military training couldn't quite grasp. 17 dreadnoughts, 43 cruiser-class vessels, and over 200 support ships, Therion reported, his crystalline armor resonating with shared data from hidden Valdorian sensor networks. "They're establishing a blockade formation. Standard doctrine for planetary subjugation." "Not standard," Lirale corrected, her nebula eyes tracking fleet movements with disturbing clarity. "Look at the spacing between their capital ships. They're maintaining minimum safe distance for quantum resonance interference. They know something has changed down here." Marcus nodded grimly. "How long before they're in position to commence bombardment?" 36 hours, came a new voice from the chamber's entrance. A Valdorian woman in the robes of a quantum engineer approached, her movements urgent. "Your Majesty, I am Director Valen of the Deep Resonance Project. We've been monitoring enemy communications since your awakening began." Lirali's attention sharpened. "The Deep Resonance Project was classified beyond my clearance level. What exactly were my father's scientists working on?" Valen exchanged a meaningful look with Commander Therion before responding. "Insurance, Your Majesty. Emperor Valdris foresaw the possibility of total system conquest. He ordered us to develop contingencies that could function even if all conventional defenses failed." Through their bond, Marcus felt Lirale's mix of pride and sorrow at this revelation about her father's preparations. "Show me," she commanded. The holographic display shifted, revealing a vast underground network that stretched beneath the capital city and beyond. Crystalline chambers connected by quantum tunnels, power conduits that tap directly into the planet's core. And at the center of it all, something that made Marcus's tactical system struggle to process the energy readings. The resonance engine, Valen explained, a quantum amplifier capable of projecting harmonic frequencies across an entire star system. The theory was that if our civilization ever faced extinction, the surviving royal bloodline could use the engine to rebuild from nothing. Rebuild how? Marcus asked, though something in their quantum connection was already whispering the answer. Quantum resurrection, Lyrelai breathed, understanding flooding through their bond. The engine can reconstruct matter patterns from residual harmonic echoes, ships, weapons, even— She paused, the implications staggering. Even people, if their quantum signatures were preserved before death. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. You're talking about bringing back the dead. Not the dead, Valen corrected. The recently departed, whose quantum patterns are still coherent in the local field. The attack was only hours ago. Most of our people's consciousness patterns are still recoverable. The ethical implications made Marcus's head spin, but through their bond, he felt Lyrelai's determination crystallizing. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about undoing the Hegemony's victory entirely. What would you need to activate the engine? Lyrelai asked. A quantum resonance source of unprecedented power, Valen replied. The kind that only exists in theoretical calculations. Her eyes moved between the Queen and her human consort. Until now. Marcus felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders. You need our bond. The quantum pattern you've created together, Therion added. It's unlike anything our science predicted. The harmonic frequencies alone could power the engine. Well, we're not sure how long. Perhaps indefinitely. Lyrelai was silent for long moments, her consciousness reaching out through their connection to touch Marcus's thoughts. He felt her weighing options, calculating costs, and beneath it all, the burning need to save her people. There's a catch, Marcus said, his military training recognizing the unspoken complications. There always is with weapons this powerful, Violin nodded reluctantly. The engine will drain quantum energy from whatever powers it. Using your bond to fuel resurrection on the scale we're discussing, it could kill you both, or transform us into something beyond current understanding, Lyrelai murmured, her scientist's mind working through possibilities. Quantum resurrection isn't just about bringing back what was lost. It's about creating something new from the pattern fragments. Through their bond, Marcus felt her considering a choice that would reshape not just their lives, but the fundamental nature of their existence. The human part of him wanted to find a safer alternative. The part that had bonded with a dying princess and called her his queen understood that some risks were worth taking. How long do we have to decide? He asked. The Hegemony fleet will be in bombardment position in 36 hours, Therion repeated. But our analysis suggests they'll begin probing attacks much sooner, perhaps within 6 hours. Then we don't have time for extended deliberation, Lyrelai said, her royal authority asserting itself. Commander, begin evacuation of non-essential personnel to the deep shelters. Director Valen, prepare the resonance engine for activation. Your Majesty, Valen protested. The risks are mine to take. Lyrelai cut her off. I am the last of the royal bloodline. My duty is to my people, not to my personal safety. Our duty, Marcus corrected, and felt her gratitude flow through their connection. Whatever happens, we face it together. As the Valdorians began implementing their queen's orders, Marcus pulled Lyrelai aside to a private alcove overlooking the ruined capital. Through the shattered crystal windows, they could see more survivors emerging from hidden shelters, their quantum cores blazing with renewed purpose. Are you sure about this? He asked, though their bond already carried his own resolve to support whatever choice she made. I watched my world die, Lyrelai replied, her voice soft but determined. I felt every quantum core go dark, heard every harmony fall silent. If there's a chance to undo that, to bring back even a fraction of what was lost. She turned to face him fully. Could you live with yourself if we didn't try? Marcus studied her face, the regal bearing that had never truly left her, the strength that had been forged in the crucible of loss, the love that flowed between them through their impossible bond. No, he admitted. I couldn't. Then we're decided. She smiled, and for a moment she looked like the princess he'd found broken in the ruins rather than the queen who would challenge death itself. Though I should warn you, if this works, if we actually manage to resurrect an entire civilization, the Hegemony won't just retreat, they'll bring everything they have. Let them come, Marcus said, surprising himself with the fierce protectiveness in his voice. They've never faced humans and Valdorians fighting as one. Their moment was interrupted by an urgent chime from Marcus's tactical display. New contacts were appearing at the edge of the system. Not Hegemony vessels, but something else entirely. Terran signatures, Marcus reported, his heart leaping with hope. The Expeditionary Force is coming back. Lyra Leigh's eyes widened as she felt his emotional response through their bond. Your people? But why would they return to a lost system? Marcus was already activating his emergency beacon, sending coded messages to the approaching fleet. The response came within minutes, and Admiral Sarah Chen's voice crackled through the quantum interference surrounding the planet. Captain Stone, this is Admiral Chen aboard the TES Defiance. We're reading impossible energy signatures from your location. What's your status? Admiral, Marcus replied, glancing at Lyra Leigh, who nodded her permission to speak freely. I've encountered complications. The Valdorian royal family survived, and we've discovered certain capabilities that could change the strategic situation. A long pause. Captain, are you saying the Valdorian Empire is still functional? More than functional, Admiral. We're about to become very inconvenient for the Hegemony. Another pause, longer this time. When Chen spoke again, her voice carried the weight of command decisions that could reshape the war. Captain, this is Admiral Chen speaking not just as your commanding officer, but as the official representative of the Terran Alliance. If the Valdorian Empire is prepared to resume active resistance against the Hegemony, the Alliance is prepared to offer full military support. Through their bond, Marcus felt Lyra Leigh's surge of hope and calculation. The Terran Alliance had been humanity's primary defense against Hegemony expansion, but they'd been fighting a losing war of attrition. An alliance with a resurgent Valdorian Empire could change everything. Admiral, Lyra Leigh said, stepping forward to speak into Marcus's communicator. This is Crown Princess Lyra Leigh Valdris, rightful heir to the Eternal Throne. I formally request immediate consultation regarding military cooperation between our peoples. The silence that followed was profound. Then, in a voice filled with barely controlled excitement, Admiral Chen responded, Your Majesty, it would be my honor. The Terran Alliance has long awaited the return of Valdris to the galactic stage. Then prepare for something unprecedented, Lyra Leigh replied, her voice carrying harmonics that made reality bend around her words. Within 12 hours, you'll witness the resurrection of an empire. As if summoned by her declaration, the planet's quantum field began to resonate with new purpose. Deep beneath the capital, ancient machinery hummed to life as Director Valen's teams brought the resonance engine online. Through the city, surviving Valdorians felt their queen's power calling to them, drawing them toward a destiny none of them fully understood. But it was the Hegemony fleet that experienced the most dramatic change. Their sensors, designed to track conventional quantum signatures, began registering readings that defied explanation. Energy patterns that suggested massive industrial resurrection. Harmonic frequencies that implied the impossible. Fleet Admiral Korthak, the lead dreadnought sensor operator, reported, his voice tight with confusion. We're detecting quantum reconstruction signatures across 17 different planetary locations. It's as if they're rebuilding their entire civilization in real time. Admiral Korthak studied the displays with growing unease. The Hegemony had spent centuries perfecting the art of total conquest, of ensuring that defeated civilizations could never rise again. Yet the readings from Valdris suggested exactly that impossible scenario. How long until we can commence bombardment? He demanded. 28 hours to optimal firing position, Admiral. But the quantum interference is increasing exponentially. If these readings are accurate, we may not be able to target effectively even from point-blank range. Korthak's mandibles clicked with frustration. The Hegemony had come to Valdris expecting to oversee cleanup operations. Instead, they were facing what appeared to be the galaxy's first recorded case of civilizational resurrection. Signal the High Command, he ordered. Tell them we need immediate reinforcement, and activate the quantum dampeners. If the Valdorians think they can sing their way back to relevance, they're about to discover the limitations of harmonic warfare. Back on the planet's surface, Marcus felt the enemy's response through his enhanced tactical systems. They're adapting faster than expected, he reported to Lirelay. Quantum dampening fields are coming online. Then we adapt faster, Lirelay replied. But through their bond, Marcus felt her concern. The Hegemony's dampening technology had been designed specifically to counter Valdorian harmonic weapons. If they deployed it effectively, even the resonance engine might not be enough. Director Valen, Lirelay called as the quantum engineer, approached with status reports. Can the engine function under dampening field conditions? Unknown, Your Majesty. The theoretical models didn't account for active interference. But… Valen paused, her scientific mind working through possibilities. Your bond with King Marcus creates quantum patterns we've never observed. It's possible that the unique frequencies you generate together could penetrate dampening fields that would stop conventional harmonics. Only one way to find out, Marcus said, feeling Lyralay's resolve strengthen through their connection. Indeed, Lirelay agreed. She raised her voice, and it carried across the quantum field to every Valdorian in the system. My people, the hour of resurrection has come. Join your voices to mine, lend your strength to our cause, and witness the return of what was thought lost forever. As her call echoed through crystal and consciousness alike, Marcus felt their bond expand to encompass something vast and beautiful and utterly unprecedented. They were no longer just two beings who had found each other in the ruins of war. They had become the focal point for the rebirth of an empire. The resonance engine's chamber lay 3 kilometers beneath the ruined palace, a vast crystalline cathedral that had taken the Valdorians decades to carve from living stone. As Marcus and Lirelay descended through quantum-sealed passages, their bond pulsed with shared anticipation and terror. Above them, the Hegemony fleet's dampening fields were strengthening, creating interference patterns that made reality itself feel unstable. The quantum resonance is fluctuating, Director Valen reported as they entered the engine chamber. The massive crystalline construct dominated the space, a fusion of technology and art that seemed to breathe with its own inner life. The dampening fields are more effective than we calculated. Marcus studied the readings on his tactical display, his enhanced combat systems struggling to process the exotic energies surrounding them. How much power will the resurrection process require? Everything, Lirelay answered simply, her hand finding his as they approached the engine's control matrix. Every quantum pattern we've created together, every harmonic frequency our bond has unlocked, and perhaps more than we have to give. Through their connection, Marcus felt the weight of what they were attempting. The quantum patterns of nearly 3 million Valdorians who had died in the attack were still coherent in the local field, but reconstructing them would require energy expenditure beyond anything their science had ever attempted. Your Majesty, Commander Therion approached, his crystalline armor reflecting the engine's growing luminescence. The Terran fleet has engaged the Hegemony advance units. Admiral Chen reports they can buy us perhaps 2 hours before the main force breaks through. 2 hours to resurrect an empire. Marcus almost laughed at the impossibility of it. Then we begin now, Lirelay declared. She moved to the engine's primary interface, a crystalline console that responded to her touch with cascading waves of light. Marcus, the human perspective in our bond. It's going to be crucial. The quantum patterns we're reconstructing. They need anchor points in reality, and your linear thought processes provide stability our harmonic consciousness lacks. Marcus nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure he understood. What he did understand was the absolute trust flowing through their bond, and the knowledge that whatever happened next, they would face it together. Lirelay began to sing. The first notes were soft, almost tentative, but they carried harmonics that made the massive crystals throughout the chamber vibrate in sympathy. Through their bond, Marcus felt her consciousness expanding, reaching out to touch the quantum echoes of the recently departed. The engine responded immediately. Light blazed through its crystalline matrix as it began drawing power not just from their bond, but from every living Valdorian in the system. The effect was staggering, thousands of quantum cores suddenly synchronizing their output, creating a resonance cascade that could be felt across multiple star systems. Impossible readings, came Admiral Chen's voice through Marcus's communicator, tight with amazement. Captain, we're detecting energy signatures equivalent to a small star-going supernova. What exactly are you doing down there? Changing the rules of the game, Marcus replied, feeling the first quantum reconstructions beginning to take shape around them. Ghostly figures began to materialize in the chamber. Translucent at first, but gaining substance as the engine converted quantum echoes into living matter. Marcus watched in awe as Valdorian nobles, soldiers, and civilians who had died in the attack slowly solidified into full existence, their eyes opening with the confused wonder of those returned from death. But the process was taking its toll. Through their bond, Marcus felt Lyrelai's life force being drawn into the reconstruction matrix. Her physical form was becoming translucent, her quantum pattern merging with the engine itself. "Lyrelai!" he called out, reaching for her, but his own hand was beginning to fade as their bond fed more power to the resurrection process. "Don't stop!" she gasped, her voice harmonizing with frequencies that human ears couldn't properly process. "I can feel them. All of them. Coming back." Throughout the capital city and beyond, the impossible was becoming reality. In the ruins of great crystal spires, Valdorian architects who had died defending their work opened their eyes to find their creations whole again. Warriors who had fallen in the last desperate battles rose with their weapons reforged and their armor gleaming. Children who had perished in the bombardment laughed with joy as they found themselves in their parents' arms once more. The Hegemony fleet's sensors went wild as their quantum dampening fields proved utterly inadequate against what was happening on Valdris. Entire cities were reconstructing themselves from quantum echoes, their crystalline architecture growing like living things as the engine's power touched every corner of the planet. "Fleet Admiral," the sensor operator reported, his voice cracking with disbelief. "They're not just bringing back their people. They're rebuilding their entire civilization. Infrastructure, technology, defensive installations, everything that was destroyed is reforming at the quantum level." Admiral Korthex stared at the tactical displays showing a planet that was literally resurrecting itself before his eyes. In all his centuries of conquest, he had never seen anything like it. The Hegemony's fundamental strategy of total destruction was being rendered meaningless by an enemy who could simply undo death itself. "Signal the High Command," he ordered, his voice tight with the first fear he'd felt in decades. "Tell them we need the entropy fleet. Tell them Valdris has achieved quantum transcendence." Back in the engine chamber, Marcus and Lyrelai had become something beyond physical existence. Their consciousness merged with the resurrection matrix. They were experiencing the return of 3 million souls as a single, overwhelming sensation. Through their bond, they felt every moment of joy as families were reunited, every surge of determination as warriors took up arms once more, every note of the growing harmonic symphony as Valdorian civilization sang itself back into existence. But they were also feeling the cost. The engine was consuming their quantum patterns, transforming them from individuals into something greater and more diffuse. Marcus felt his human perspective beginning to fragment, while Lyrelai's consciousness expanded beyond the boundaries of a single mind. "We're losing ourselves," Marcus managed to communicate through their dissolving bond. "No," Lyrelai replied, her thoughts now carrying the voices of millions. "We're becoming something new. Look." Around them, the resurrected Valdorians were not quite the same as they had been before death. Their quantum patterns, filtered through Marcus and Lyrelai's unprecedented bond, had been subtly altered. They retained their memories, their personalities, their essential selves, but they also carried something new, a harmonic resonance that bridged the gap between human linear thought and Valdorian quantum consciousness. Their hybrid, Marcus realized, understanding flooding through their connection. Not physically, but mentally. Quantum-enhanced, but with human-style cognitive patterns. "The next evolution," Lyrelai agreed. "A fusion of our people's greatest strengths." As if to prove her point, the resurrected Valdorians began demonstrating abilities that neither species had possessed before. Crystalline technology responded to their thoughts with human efficiency and precision. Harmonic frequencies carried the logical structure of human mathematics. Quantum matrices operated with the reliability of human engineering. Admiral Chen's voice crackled through the interference. Captain Stone, we're reading massive energy buildups throughout the Valdorian fleet positions. Their ships, they're rebuilding themselves from quantum echoes, but the designs are unlike anything in our databases. Through the engine's expanded awareness, Marcus and Lyrelay could see what the Admiral was describing. The resurrected Valdorian fleet wasn't just reforming, it was evolving. Ships that had been destroyed in the initial attack were returning as hybrid vessels that combined Valdorian harmonic technology with human tactical thinking. The Hegemony fleet is retreating, Commander Therian reported, his voice filled with awe as he watched the tactical displays. They're actually running from us. But Lyraleigh's consciousness, now expanded beyond individual existence, sensed something more complex in the enemy's withdrawal. Through quantum resonance patterns that spanned light years, she could feel the Hegemony's true response forming in the depths of space. They're not retreating, she communicated through the engine's harmonic field. They're regrouping, calling in reinforcements that can counter quantum resurrection. We have perhaps days before they return with weapons specifically designed to permanently disrupt quantum consciousness. Marcus, his own awareness now merged with the planet's growing intelligence, understood the implications. Then we use these days to prepare something they can't counter. What did you have in mind? Lyraleigh asked, her thoughts harmonizing with his in patterns that created new possibilities. We don't just defend Valdris, Marcus replied, his human, tactical instincts combining with her quantum perception to envision strategies beyond conventional warfare. We spread. Every world the Hegemony has conquered, every civilization they've destroyed. If even fragments of quantum consciousness remain, we can reach them through resonance cascades. The audacity of the concept sent ripples through their shared awareness. They weren't just talking about resurrecting the Valdorian Empire. They were considering the resurrection of every civilization the Hegemony had ever destroyed. A revolution. Of the dead, Lyraleigh breathed, the poetic justice of it appealing to both her royal heritage and her newfound hybrid nature. Through the engine's vast consciousness, they reached out across the galaxy, their quantum resonance touching worlds that had been silent for decades. On planets reduced to ash and memory, faint echoes of quantum patterns stirred in response to their call. Civilizations that had thought themselves extinct forever felt the first tentative notes of possible resurrection. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across 17 star systems, dead worlds began to sing with renewed life as the engine's influence spread through quantum resonance cascades. The Hegemony's greatest victories were being systematically undone by an enemy that refused to accept the permanence of death. But the process was transforming Marcus and Lyraleigh in ways they hadn't anticipated. Their individual consciousness were becoming part of something vast and beautiful and utterly unprecedented. A living network of quantum intelligence that spanned multiple worlds and species. Are we still us? Marcus wondered, his sense of individual identity becoming harder to maintain as their consciousness merged with the growing galactic network. We're more than us, Lyraleigh replied, her royal authority now backed by the collective will of millions of resurrected souls. We're what we were always meant to become. As the first full day of resurrection concluded, Marcus and Lyraleigh found themselves in a state that defied easy description. Their physical forms had become vessels for quantum consciousness that existed across multiple dimensional planes. They could manifest anywhere in their growing empire instantly, communicate through harmonic frequencies that transcended distance, and access the collective knowledge of every civilization they had touched. But they were still, at their core, the human soldier who had refused to abandon a dying princess, and the Valdorian queen who had found hope in the darkest hour of her people's history. Standing together in the crystal gardens that had regrown around the reconstructed palace, they watched the twin suns of Valdris set over a capital city that hummed with impossible life. Terran and Valdorian ships flew in perfect formation overhead, their crews working together with the easy cooperation of species that had found common cause. The Hegemony will return, Lyraleigh said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the evening air shimmer with possibility. Let them, Marcus replied, his arm around her waist as they stood overlooking an empire that had been reborn through their love and sacrifice. They'll find us ready. Through their quantum bond, now expanded, to encompass countless worlds and billions of consciousness, they felt the agreement of every soul they had touched. The galaxy had been given a second chance, And this time, no one would face extinction alone. As the stars emerged in the darkening sky, each one representing worlds that might yet be saved, Marcus and Lyrili began planning for a future that neither hegemony nor death itself could deny them. The resurrection was complete. The real war was just beginning, and at its heart, forever and always, was the love between a human king and his alien queen, a bond strong enough to defy death and reshape the very nature of existence itself. Epilogue. 1 year later, the Hegemony's final stronghold fell not to weapons of war, but to the irresistible song of resurrection that echoed across the galaxy. Their own dead rose to stand against them, quantum consciousness restored and enhanced by the hybrid network that Marcus and Lyrili had become. In the end, the empire that had built itself on the permanence of death discovered that love, properly applied, could make even the impossible inevitable. And in crystal gardens that grew on 1,000 worlds, human children played alongside their Valdorian siblings, their laughter creating harmonies that promised a future brighter than any prophecy had dared to dream. End of story. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.